Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
The scope expands further to understand the interrelationship between organisms in population and communities. First, we should understand how the organization is arranged. We know that we are all made up of cells. What do you mean by a cell? Cell is the central dogma, rather the basic and structural and functional unit of life. The best example for a single-celled organism is your amoeba or a bacteria, whatever it might be. The cells are arranged themselves to form the next step called tissues. The tissues group themselves to form an organ which has got a specific function. These organs congregate or arrange themselves to form a fully formed organisms. The organisms have a similar feeding habit or habitat. They join to form a community. The community have got a positive or a negative relationship with others or within themselves and forms a large aggregate called population. This is how the structure is being arranged. In a forest, we find a deer population. The deer may be a spotted deer or an antelope. They share a similar habitat or habitat. Habit means feeding. Habitat means the place where they live. They eat grass and they are called as herbivores. They are predated by a large carnivorous animals called a tiger or lion on these deer for its food. When these animals die, they are decomposed by microorganisms and particularly bacteria and fungi convert them into simpler nutrients and they are used by the plants and consumed by animals. Thus, you could find a repetition of the activity which we call it as a food chain, and there happens cycling of nutrients. Thus, an interrelationship between organisms in populations and communities are maintained with a delicate balance, which we call it as ecological balance. Today, this balance is totally disturbed by an activity called the best activity, which we call it as a standard example, where the delicate balance is disturbed, is your deforestation. As a result, the animal's habitat is getting fragmented and also their food scarcity happens. So the animals do not have adequate food, die, and the population gets disturbed. So now the importance is understood. Unless we understand the relationship, the interrelationship between organisms and populations and communities are understood and the scope is known, that is where we are supposed to study this environmental studies. So next thing, how to understand the interrelationship. Unless we are knowing the interrelationship, we cannot go to the next step of conservation. Well, continuing the scope, we have to understand the importance of biodiversity, particularly the conservation of biodiversity. Bio means life, diversity means variety. You find a variety of animals and plants in the environment. So how to conserve them is one of a scope or a importance we have to understand. You just look at this picture, you could find a bird. The bird name is Indian white-backed vulture. It is succumbed to kite injury and its wing is injured. And due to the manja threads being used for kite flying, that has been razorized this wing and it has created a problem to this bird. The bird is bleeding. This bird is an excellent scavenger. It clears any dead body found over the forest or in a burial ground. And today its population has crashed and plummeted over the last decade and diclofenac poisoning is fixed to the cause. Today this bird has been red listed and endangered. Efforts have been taken by our government of India to revive its population. Well, its relationship in the environment is a scavenger. This bird eats any dead animal. Such a natural scavenger is under threat. So, the importance come to us, we have to conserve this species. When we speak about conservation, conservation has to be understood as in situ and ex situ, where in situ means conserving the particular bird or an animal in its habitat, or ex situ means taking that animal, taking to a safe place like a zoo or a sanctuary or other thing, and conserving them. For example, if you want to conserve whales, so whale is a large mammal. It is found only in seas and oceans in a marine ecosystem. It has to be conserved only in seas and oceans. It cannot be taken to a park or a sanctuary. So that is how that in situ conservation means. So anyhow, this conservation of biodiversity we will be dealing in subsequent lectures. We will move on to the next scope and importance. Well, the important task of environmental studies is to create awareness and educate the people regarding environmental issues and the problems. People are now continuously hammered in their mind about corona prevention, which is viewed at not only at the local level, at a city level or a town level or at a metropolitan, or now it is viewed at district level, state level, national and international level. Awareness is created by all possible means, let it be the social media or the law enforcement. The problem is understood and people are trying to be safe at their home and trying to prevent the infection. Similarly, issues like pollution discharge from the industry. The best example is portrayed in the picture, and how this pollution or the polluted discharge effluent is mingling in a lake or a drinking water resource, which could seriously impact the health of the humans, not only the humans and other aquatic lives. Further, now we are seriously speaking on global warming, ozone layer depletion, climate change, failure of monsoon, disasters like earthquake, cyclone, tsunami, drought, and all these environmental issues are being now discussed upon. This is to create awareness and educate the people regarding the environmental issues. So, thus, the main scope and importance of this environmental studies is to create awareness, principally to create an environmental educational and awareness to the people. If you just look at the overall scope and importance, it is mainly focusing on to know the more sustainable way of living. The importance and scope of environmental studies are more reflecting on the effective use of natural resources, and attention is given on the sustainable way of living, particularly how we can use the resources in a sustainable manner. In this slide, the picture gives an overview of the fish landings at an harbor, and people are waiting to purchase fishes and sell this perishable commodity to the consumers. When fishes are offloaded in the shore, they require an immediate sale to the public, or else it will be unfit as this proteinaceous material undergoes decomposition, quick decomposition. Now, how to effectively use this resource from the marine environment? Government has established a lot of cold storage facilities to store these fishes, as it could be subsequently processed through fishery industry, and in exporting the fish or preparing any medicinal extract from the fish, which can be easily used in the pharmaceutical industry. Thus, the fishes are not wasted, they are cold stored, and thereby there occurs no loss in the labor and economy. So, this is found to be a more sustainable way of living. So, the scope and importance reflects more on the sustainable way of living. Well, when you look at the history of sustainable development, it takes its root from United Nations General Assembly. In 1983, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution. The resolution was a process of preparation of the environmental perspective to the year 2000 and beyond. That was the title, and a commission was constituted to take care of the resolution. The objective of the resolution was a long-term environmental strategies for achieving sustainable development to the year 2000 and beyond, and consider the ways and means by which the international community can deal more effectively with the environmental concerns, particularly ozone depletion, global climate change, greenhouse gas emission reduction, water crisis, growing human population, depletion of resources, and many more like that. Subsequently, the commission was christened as World Commission on Environment and Development, and it was chaired by Brundtland, the Norwegian Prime Minister, and it is called as Brundtland Commission popularly. And it included 21 members from different countries who were involved in framing the report, giving recommendations for the sustainable development. From our nation, India, Sri Nagendra Singh, the President of the International Court of Justice, participated and took a lot of proactive measures in preparing the report on sustainable development. So, there how the concept of sustainable development took its origin. From the Commission's report, we infer the definition of sustainable development as the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Well, the question could be asked in two ways, or the definition could be split into two parts for our understanding. What is our current requirement? We will take an example of water. Water shortage is an obvious phenomenon during summer. How to handle the water crisis? Use the existing water resources judiciously. Avoid wastage of water. Keep your water taps well maintained. Employ proper measures to clean the tanks and lakes and deepen them to collect the rainwater during the monsoon. Ensure a rainwater conservation measure, for example, rooftop harvesting, rooftop water collection, so that the water crisis could be managed and the water resources could be conserved. So the first statement is development with that meets the needs of the present. So the needs of the present is water. The second part says that the compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. Whatever we conserve now, recharging the groundwater, deepening the water storage facilities, will help to uphold the water and it can be used by the future generation. We will plant and nurture the tree and let our children enjoy the fruits in future. That could be the simple meaning of without compromising the ability of the future generation. So this is the simplest concept for the sustainable development of the future. Well, we get a question why the sustainability is required, why the sustainability is always stressed and it is spoken at different levels. The human population is increasing and the current world population is 7.7 billion, and this humongous population growth is witnessed in countries like China, India, and USA, and many other countries along with these densely populated countries consume and demand on and put a serious demand on the natural resources, very particularly on food. It has led to a serious problem in the depletion of the resources. Further, industrial expansion, which has created a large revolution in many of the industrial sectors, particularly automobile and transport sector, has resulted in the use of petroleum products, which has driven the entire globe stressed with soil, air, and water pollution, predominantly with plastic and e-waste pollution. So all these factors are driving us to understand why we require a sustainable development and how to apply the sustainable development at all dimensions. That is where we require sustainability. The sustainable development is based upon two key concepts, as said in Brundtland's Commission report. The first is looking into the needs of the poor. Priority has to be given to them. In comparison with our nation, many of the underdeveloped countries like Africa still suffer with poverty, lack of sanitation, water, education, and many other essential needs. Hence, how we can provide these needs and how we can provide these needs and make them to sustain. What priority has to be given? Look at our own nation. First, let us take our own nation. Women and child welfare is one of the priority in our country. A separate women and child welfare department is established by the government of India both at central and state level, giving a compulsory education, providing them with skills, equality in rights, participating them in local self-help government. So we give a priority rather than a full attention towards the poor people. That is what the first key concept says. When we want to cater the poor, we require some technology. The technology should be viable and cost effective and should use the local resources without any disturbance to the local environment. Well, we will take an example of mud pots. What is the role of mud pots? Mud pots are generally used in summer to store water, which can provide you a cool water. Mud pot contains voids, so there is a free air circulation inside the mud pot compartment and makes the water cool, and it is potable to drink. After a period of time, if the pot breaks, the pot could go to the soil and the mud could be again recycled back. So here we are taking the source, rather the soil resource, utilizing in a benefitable manner, and again finally we are recycling back. It is a still green eco-friendly technology. So the same soil could be used as a mud pot for the future generation too. So that is the state of technology, and the social organization should meet the present and future needs of the society without harming the environment. That is what the second key concept of sustainable development speaks upon. Well, now we see every dimension in a better manner. The economic interests for sustainability should be a framework for making decisions. Flow of financial capital, facilitating commerce, develop knowledge skills and other attributes, particularly entrepreneurship, where all the people should roll the economic wheel in such a manner the effects are sustained in the environment. Ultimately, the economic interests are ignored and end up only as a self-centric approach rather than an ecocentric approach. So it is very much important. So the economic interests are here to make a flow of a financial capital, giving the knowledge, skills and competencies, thereby entrepreneurship skills are being embodied in individuals, and it is more relevant to the economic activity. They roll the economic wheel in such a manner the effects become sustained in the environment. When you move to the environmental aspects, the environmental aspects of sustainable development revolves around on understanding the variety and variability of living systems, particularly the biodiversity and its interrelationships and the goods and services produced by the world's ecosystem. And the ecosystem has to be nurtured and used in a proper manner without wastage. Further, the development process in any arena, for example, industries, which are the first source of employment, rolling the economic wheel, and goods, giving comfort, should be eco-friendly. Unfortunately, these processes give wastes, which accounts for a serious pollution of the globe, which needs an attention on its reduction, prevention, and treatment at the source as well as at the activity. Now let us move to the socio-political dimension. Socio-political dimension refers to the entire society and its governing process, where the interactions between the people at local, national, or international levels has to be understood. And if the socio-political dimensions express the human and ethical values on environmental issues, then this dimension can help us to take correct actions in a viable and a bearable manner. So that is what this socio-political dimension refers to. The biggest question comes to us how we can achieve a sustainable development, a simple change in the mindset. Well, the human capacity and the potential of the humans is quite abundant and it has to be opened up. The tools, the first tool we have to use is education, health, and gender equality. If education is given to all genders, it can bring lot of awareness. If education is given on awareness over the health, environment, and consciousness over the environment, we can change our behavior in the environment and it can bring a degree of sustainability. Second, the consumption and production are having a direct correlation with demand. If the demand increases, the production has to be geared up, and in the event overconsumption of resources along with pollution as a byproduct has to be balanced and it should be understood. Next thing is energy requirement. It is a need of the hour. Our energy deposits, particularly the conventional energy resources, are in verge of exhaustion. Further, the carbon levels are increasing due to the use of oil products, and this has to be balanced into the environment through decarbonization. Suppose if you want to stop or reduce the process of global climate change, well, the recent reports indicate that the pollution levels have been decreased due to the lockdown of industries and less transportation. However, it cannot continue. So, we have to find an alternate pollution less or pollution free transportation mechanisms, and we have to use non conventional solar, wind, or any other energy resources. The food, water, and the biosphere has to be maintained because the delicate life process are seen only in this sphere. Today we speak on lot on the smart cities. What do you mean by the smart cities? They are a planned and a state of art infrastructure cities right from housing to roads. The waste disposal is very systematic and the pollution levels can be easily monitored and controlled. Today, we are in a digital era. Well, the best example is what we are giving is an online lecture. Sitting in one part of the country, we could listen to the lecture delivered all throughout the nation. Artificial intelligence, big data analytics, nanotech infused with lot of other systems are the recent terms which are hitting the media, especially in the field of engineering. Well, it is having a viable application in all the fields. For example, the best example often being said in the media is Arogya Setu. Arogya Setu is an app designed by the government of India built with an artificial intelligence platform. So, which analyze the data on the corona of the country and about healthcare, awareness about corona to the public, all these things. So, the achievement of the sustainability is the only change in the mindset to accept and gear up with the technologies to attain sustainable development. So these are some of the means where we can achieve sustainable development. Well, to summarize the whole thing, what we have understood from the module 1, we just saw what do you mean by an environment. Environment literally means surrounding, and it is the sum of biotic and abiotic components interlinked together. And why we have to study the environment is we have listed out the issues. And the environment is made up of very many components. The three major components which we makes us to study the environment are lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. These three spheres have got an influential role on the life sustained sphere called biosphere. The environment is multidisciplinary in nature where very many branches of engineering, science, arts, economy are entwined, thereby making the environment multidisciplinary. The scope and importance are so large and ultimately it revolves around one concept called sustainable way of living. Well, this sustainability means upholding the resources. The definition clearly says that you have to meet the present needs without compromising the needs of the future generation. This sustainability is being linked with three dimensions, particularly social, economic, and environment. And to achieve sustainability, a change in mindset, thereby the educational tools, the technology tools, everything has to be infused with the basic idea of less pollution and to have a greener environment. That is what the concept of sustainable development revolves around. I thank Swayam Prabha to deliver a lecture on the module 1 on environmental studies. Thank you, friends.